Hey everybody, it's Daphne, your favorite person in the whole world from Lore Entertainment. We are sitting down with director Joth Riggs. He is a hard one to get, a hard one. How you doing, Joth?
Hey Daphne, how you doing? Glad we made it happen.
Right, right. Oh my God. So Joth has been sick, so we had to move him around, and now he's
Yeah,
feeling
I,
better. So
I
we've got,
had no voice for 6 weeks, which made it really hard to do my job. So I actually had to leave a show because I literally couldn't do my job. So,
wow. Yeah, you
but I'm
can't.
back.
No yelling, cut, action, nothing.
Yeah, yeah. Got action. Yeah, it was tough. It was really tough. My job is not conducive to being voiceless. So neither is doing podcasts. That doesn't work either. So
Ugh.
we're now we're back. We're back in. We're back in, folks.
Yeah, this is just a side thing. This is something I like to do to basically, I started these to educate. And I'm putting that program out in August to bring kids in is basically as a reward for students because not all students are going to make an A. Let's be realistic, and I feel like, even if you got a B, you should be that some kind of a reward, good behavior. At least
Sure.
it shows effort. So
Yeah.
I put it out with the school boards that if they hold a B and if their behavior is good and you are submitted by a teacher or a principal, has to be no parents because parents show favoritism. We know this.
Yeah.
And you're submitted by a teacher or, the principal to me. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put their names in and draw them out live. I'll go, live and pick one or two kids each week to co-host some of these with.
Nice.
And the
Yeah.
reason why I kind of did that is because one, it'd get them interested in just more than wanting to become YouTube famous or TikTok famous, and
Yeah.
maybe show them a little different sides of the industry as far as broadcasting, camera work,
Yeah.
stunt, other portions of the industry, because it's not all about just getting TikTok famous. There are other aspects of this industry that they could be doing.
Yeah. The technical behind the scenes work.
Yeah, the fun
Yeah.
stuff.
Yeah.
The fun stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, totally. It's funny. My daughter's high school had a career day for the film industry,
Mhm.
and they had all producers and directors come and talk. And I said, why don't they have anybody representing below the line crew? Cinematographers and assistant directors and production designers and costume designers and sound people. I mean, there's so many great things to do on a set besides just produce and direct, I mean,
Yeah.
there's a lot of great careers in the business. Well, it's not the best industry to start a career in right now. But if you do, there's a lot of different things to do on a set. I mean, hundreds of different positions, literally.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
I mean, it's not all about, and this is something that I put out there all the time. It's not about, there's so many people that are just worried about becoming famous.
yeah,
If
yeah,
that's why you're doing this job or trying to get into this industry, please just don't,
yeah,
you know,
yeah. We don't need that. No
don't,
thanks.
because you actually have to like this job in order to make it anywhere. Because if you're just in it to get famous, just do us a favor and don't, you know,
Yeah,
Be
for sure.
be harder for that person. They're in it for the wrong reasons, I feel like,
Yeah,
you know.
yeah,
And a lot of people, they ask me all the time, they're like, well, why do you do it? And you do a lot of stuff for free because I like doing what I do, you
yeah.
know?
I was just telling my producing partner yesterday. I said, you know what? If I won the lottery, you and I'd be having this same phone call talking about our upcoming project. I said the only difference is I'd be floating in some massive swimming pool while I was talking to you. That's the only difference. But I would still be making movies.
Yeah. Yeah. Cause you like to do it.
I love it. I love
It's
it.
fun. It is
Passion.
fun. So what's the best? Well, I mean, I can't really, I'm not going to ask it that way because then that would put you on the spot as far as what would be the best film you've worked on. What's the funnest set? What set have you had the most fun on?
Well, I think that would have to be Starship Troopers, just because of the fact that we had at the time, I mean, that one was we shot that in 96, which was a long time ago. But at the time, it was the biggest budgeted film ever. It was $100 million production budget
Wow.
before $100 million films. Again, we're talking 28 years ago.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of money. We had so much cool stuff on that set. And it was right around the era where the film industry was transitioning from practical effects to visual effects.
Yeah.
And so we had both. We had a lot, it was kind of the end of the era of a lot of practical effects on set. And so I'm grateful I had that experience,
Yeah.
because nowadays you read it. I mean, it used to be you'd read a script and you'd see some really cool scenes. You're like, wow, I can't wait to shoot that. But nowadays you're like, oh, it just means we're going to be on a green screen stage or a volume stage. Where before, it's like, ooh, pirate ships fighting in the Caribbean. I wonder where we're going to go, what exotic locale we're going to go shoot that at.
Mhm.
And so on Starship Troopers, we had a lot of really cool stunts and special effects and the real deal. But we also had at the time the latest technology of green screen and blue screen visual effects, which at the time was super cool because nobody had been doing that yet. So we had, for example, because there are big aliens on that in that film, and we had the same studio, Phil Tippett Studios, that did the practical dinosaurs for Jurassic Park, was doing our aliens, and the same visual effects studio that did the visual effects dinosaurs on Jurassic Park, Dennis Muren, was doing our VFX on the show. So we had cutting edge technology on both fronts at the same time. And it was just a really cool time to be in filmmaking, seeing all of the different ways that you could go about getting what you wanted and putting it on screen. And it was a ton of fun. I loved it.
So the stunts, I mean, did they have a lot of stunt coordinators in that, or
Well,
were
they had one stunt coordinator, but a huge stunt team. In fact, the stunt coordinator was also our second unit director. So he would often, be independent of first unit, off shooting just gigantic stunt sequences with, battle sequences where guys are flying through the air and on cable rigs and stuff like that. I mean, we did quite a bit with first unit as well that involved our principals. Um, so there was always something cool happening, most days on that set.
wow, that
Yeah.
sounds like fun. I mean, that would be a lot of fun because I like to rappel, so I can imagine being jerked on those wires. But
Yeah.
the old school stuff, it seems like it's a lot more fun. And everybody was asking about a lot of the projects that I've got going on, whether or not I plan on using the AI or the a lot of CGI. And I'm like, I'm old school, so I don't want to. Basically, if I know that we can do it, I want to do it. You know,
Yeah.
I'll bring in the best
Yeah.
stunt crews that we need to get it done because I actually want to have fun. I don't want to have to use green screens and stuff like that if we don't have to, you know.
Yeah, no, I agree. There's just something about it. And, and green screen, I mean, on the producing side of things, it's very efficient and cost effective. So I totally get it. But on the practical side, it's a lot harder for your actors to be in character just because they're not in the real environment dealing with the real elements. And a lot of times it's a stick and a tennis ball, surrounded by, green. And, it makes their job a whole lot harder. Whereas when you're just there and in the thick of it and you've got stunts and elements all flying around you, that's a visceral experience. So, you can imagine you're probably going to get better performances out of it too. So there's definitely a benefit to the old school
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yeah, I mean, I volunteer and I talk to kids at there's this program called Naprice. And what you do is you sign up and you can volunteer to talk in these classrooms. And I do. And I had these kids ask me one day because they knew that I've done some acting jobs. And they were like, well, if you ever had the chance to do a Marvel movie, would you? And I said, honestly, I said, I like the Marvel movies. I said, but no.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm going to tell you why. And I said, honestly, I like to ride motorcycles. I like stuff like that, but I could not act against a green screen. I would have to
Yeah.
actually legitimately do it in person.
Yeah.
And they do a lot of their stuff CGI and stuff like that. And I couldn't do that
Yeah.
because I know it would create a problem for me because I would not be in that situation. I was like, but if they called me and said, hey, can you really ride the motorcycle or really do this? I would be game, you know?
Yeah. I think the exception would be the paycheck. It'd probably be a pretty good paycheck.
Yeah,
But
probably, but I still like to have fun. Money's not everything all the time,
yeah.
you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, no, I agree. And actually, I the first half of my career I spent in the studio, big budget studio world.
Yeah,
And but I actually found myself a little too disconnected from the final product. I was just a cog in a very large machine. And so I ended up switching into indies where I was rolling up my sleeves and hands on in the process and a much bigger part of the actual process. And it's just so cool. It's so much fun being really, the part of the driving force of creating such amazing stuff,
yeah.
So,
Hard
but
work.
yeah, I mean, there's something to be said. Obviously, the big Marvel movies are amazing, but as big as they are, it's a whole different formula that, you implement to create those, so
Yeah, yeah.
different animal altogether.
So you don't have to say the name of any films. What is the worst situation? You don't have to say any names or anything.
Yeah, well, no, I mean, I won't. I mean, I'm trying to think. I don't really have a specific one that stands out. Usually, if there's a bad experience, it's maybe an individual or something like that. Sometimes it'd be like, I don't know, a producer, that's just not on the same page. But I mean, I guess I can count myself lucky that I really don't have one that comes to mind. I mean, there's always a few bad apples, so to speak, here and there, but nothing that's been a really memorable one for me. I mean, there's so many moving pieces in a film. You're usually able to sort of mitigate one or two knuckleheads and just kind of, work around it and grit your teeth. And the other beauty of our business is being that we're gig workers, the job's going to be over soon and you'll all say goodbye and you'll all hug at the wrap party and act like you were best friends. And then some of those people you'll hopefully never see again. And the ones that you worked really well with, you're calling them on the next one. And then it's a reunion of, your best friends that you all went to war together with, you know? So again, nothing lasts forever in this business, which is good and bad. But the good part of it is that even a bad experience doesn't last that long.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when did you first get into this industry? How many years you been in this?
Well, my first professional film was Pet Cemetery 2 in 1992. I was a film student before that, so I made a lot of short films leading up to that. But that was my first time on a professional film set. I was an intern, and my job was to set up the monitor for the director. So it was a wonderful internship because I had to record every take so she could watch it for playback. So I literally sat next to the director for every take of the entire movie from start to finish. So it was such an amazing, eye-opening experience watching the process from really up close and personal. And I already thought movies were cool and I wanted to be part of it, but behind the scenes was so fascinating to me. I couldn't get enough and could not wait to continue diving in. So those 30 over 32 years ago is when I started.
That's how I felt when I was on Donnybrook. I mean, I froze my ass off for 3 days because it was 3 days in the freezing cold, and I was in shorts and a tank top at night,
Yeah.
15 degrees, but it was like, it was so awesome.
Yeah.
It was, I'm not gonna lie.
Yeah. Well, if you're crazy like us, then
Yeah.
and you still love those experiences, then you know you're in the right business.
Yeah, it was. And Tim Sutton, he was, oh man, he was great. He's great. I loved him. His
Yeah.
whole was just great. He's but I mean, that writing, Steven's writing, his writing is good. He has some twisted stuff, I'm telling
Yeah.
you. That probably would have been a great project to be a part of, actually, back then.
Yeah.
Or The Shining. That would have been
Oh
another
yeah. I
one.
can't imagine sitting next to Kubrick when he's doing take 65. I can't imagine that kind of set, you know.
Or the little girls, the twins. Them
Oh yeah.
little girls look evil.
Well, you know, it's interesting. Of course, Pet Cemetery being my first movie, it was a horror movie. So it was a good one because obviously I was able to really see the difference between what looks really spooky and scary on screen and isn't even remotely scary in person when we're doing it. You know, for example, we had, you know, one of the main sorry, by the way, I still have lingering issues with my throat, which is why I keep hitting mute so you don't hear me cough. But so yeah, the main animal is a dog that's kind of a Cujo dog, you know, it's, you know, a scary dog that attacks people. And the actual dog we use was white and fluffy and the sweetest thing and loved the crew petting them and everything like that. So on the set, what they did was they put honey in his hair so it looked all matted. They put some kind of special spray paint on black so that he wasn't all white and fluffy.
Yeah.
They tied his tail to his hind leg because he was constantly wagging his tail. He was having such a good time. They use what's called a snarl device, which is a rubber, basically a rubber band that goes in and it goes around, it wraps behind the canines that makes them always go, and you know, you can see the teeth sticking out.
Yeah.
But again, that was just a device that made his lips do that. They used what's called a beam splitter on the lens, which made his eyes glow red, like they sometimes do when you're pointing, you know, headlights at an animal. They use, of course, vicious growls in post production, you know, that made him sound like he's mauling somebody to death. And then they used his trainer, who was also his owner, whom he loved, in double costume of whoever he was mauling on screen. And the trainer, you know, they were playing. The dog would just be licking his face, and they would be. And in real life, he was like, "Good boy, good boy." And then you watch it on screen, and it's, oh my gosh, you know, he's ripping his throat out. You know, it was so funny seeing how drastically different the real life sequence was. You know, this super happy dog that looked like the most vicious killer on screen. It's amazing what you can do.
Horror movies are fun. I mean, I love horror movies. I think I've done 3 or 4, and I tell you what, I have had the most fun in those movies because you just, I don't know, between the makeup
Yeah,
and atmosphere and everything, it's so much fun because you get to do so much goofy shit.
they can be crazy.
Love horror movies. There was
Yeah,
one, and I told this to somebody. She was afraid to put blood in my hair because my hair was like not, it was
yeah, yeah, yeah.
blonder than this. And she was afraid it was going to mess my hair up. I'm like, I don't care. Just throw it in my hair. If it makes it
Right,
look real,
right.
throw it in my hair. I can fix that. Don't worry about
Yeah,
it.
let's do this.
Yeah, right. And the
Yeah,
guy had to grab my hair, and she was worried about him grabbing my hair too. I'm like, I'm not tender-headed. If it looks real, and we rehearsed it, I was like, if
yeah,
it looks real, grab it, and he did. I let him, I was like, I
yeah,
want it to
yeah,
look real. I don't care if it's a little short film, whatever. It's going in your little
yeah,
contest. Do what you need to do to make it look real. And
yeah.
she was so scared about it. I'm like, you've got to calm down.
And we use like smashed cranberries to look like guts, blood and guts and stuff like that. I mean, it's just really fun to see all the different ways you can cheat to make something look different, you
Yeah.
know.
It's great. I
Yeah.
swear. What do you have coming up? You got anything out? You got anything coming up?
Well, I have a couple of options. I have a couple of films that I haven't decided between yet, that I'm assistant directing. And then I have an action thriller that I wrote that I'm producing and directing as well. And we're in the casting process. And so hopefully I'll be shooting that later this year. So always something going. Although admittedly, this past year has been slower than any other year in this business. With the strikes, the strikes really did a number on this business for sure.
Yeah,
But
I think everybody's still getting motivated.
we're very slowly kind of getting back to it. But it's happening just slower than anybody would like, I think.
It's almost like coming back from COVID.
Yeah, and the fact that it happened pretty much right after COVID. And then, of course, there's other potential strikes coming up in the next few weeks that everybody's sort of still waiting on. The IATSE and Teamsters are still negotiating their contracts. So, bit of upheaval in this business. You gotta have the stomach for it if you want to be in this business. Of course, even on a good day, it's freelance. So, even though I've been doing it for over 32 years and I've done over 120 something films, when the film's over, I'm just as unemployed as the next guy. I don't have job security. And I've got to find my next gig just like anybody else. So you definitely got to be thick-skinned in this business.
That's another thing I've said numerous times, especially
Yeah.
educating new actors, you know, with casting and stuff. I tell them you cannot get upset. And I really say this for kids, not adults, because kids need to know, about the casting and how they get hurt. Their feelings are hurt if they don't get a role. And it's not necessarily their performance. It could be anything. It could be, you're an inch too short, your hair color is not
Right.
right. Because I mean,
Sure.
I've had that happen to me where my hair was too blonde for one film and not blonde enough for the other one. Like,
Yeah, and it's no reflection on your ability necessarily.
no,
You know.
there was a movie that came here. It was the movie that Regina King came here to shoot. My hair was too blonde for that movie. And when the bike riders shot, the one that's about to be released here, my hair wasn't blonde enough. I'm like, there's no medium with you with casting.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're too blonde, not blonde enough. I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna leave it the way it is because I'm happy with the way it is. So whatever.
Yeah, you got to pick a brand and go with it. It's the same with like whether or not you have a beard or short hair or long hair. I mean, in theory, you could shave your head, but if your brand is long hair, you might have to pass on some shaved head, you know, stuff. It just depends. Because I mean, I have a separate film that's a military film that's coming up, and we're considering some actors, but I said, you know what, that actor is like known for their hair. That actor's not going to want to do a Marine Corps buzz cut, so, but that actor works a lot, so it's fine, so you just sometimes just have to own your brand, and that's okay too.
Well, look at Demi Moore when she shaved
All
her head.
right.
Yeah, Jane.
Yeah, that's true. That
I
was
cannot
hardcore.
believe she
Yeah.
shaved her head for that role. That woman is
Yeah, that's commitment.
yeah, yeah. I mean, I give her props, seriously.
Yeah. Yeah, that's
Not-
dedication.
Yeah. Because honestly, do I think, I mean, as far as I'd cut my hair, I think would be to here.
Hmm.
Would I ever shave my head? Hell no.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I wouldn't either, and I'm a guy, so
Right.
it'll shave itself eventually. It's getting there, but I don't need to rush it.
Kind of like women, your hair gets thinner when you get older. I'm all
Yeah,
good. They might not grow
yeah.
back if I friggin' shave.
That's right.
I don't want to wig. I'm good with that. No,
Yeah.
goodness, it's crazy. So you have your projects coming up. You got any other big plans?
Well, the projects that I've got coming up that we're potentially looking at doing, a company. and putting a package together. So it's going to involve more than just directing a film. It's going to mean, a lot of business stuff, which is not my favorite. But I do love making movies, and so the opportunity to make a full slate sounds very appealing. And I've got a team, that handles stuff that I'm not skilled in.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. It's time consuming, and of course, there's a lot of speculative time put into stuff like this, where you're not getting paid for your time until you get past a certain threshold, but you'll never get past that threshold unless you put in that time. So it's one of those times when you have to say, how dedicated are you? How motivated are you? It's interesting because somebody recently posted something on Facebook about they're an actor and they're giving up on the business because they had 15 auditions and didn't book any. And it's like, look, if that's enough to make you quit the business, then yeah, maybe this isn't the business for you, because it's going to take a lot more than 15 auditions, before you finally have broken in and you're doing it. But same from my side of the camera. It's going to take a lot of free labor to get to that point. And by the way, I'll comment on this. I don't even know, who all's watching this, but for people who are just getting in, it's very popular, especially among younger people in this business, to say, don't ever work for free. Know your worth. Yeah, I agree with that. Know your worth. When you haven't done anything in this business, your worth is zero. I'm just going to be flat out honest with you. So if you're not willing to work for free to get those initial breaks, it's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen for you. You have to be willing to work for free. And I don't mean being abused. I don't mean a situation that's not appropriate or uncomfortable, but I just mean not getting paid. When I was telling you my first job was Pet Cemetery 2, I made exactly $0 on that movie. I worked on it for 2.5 months every single day and put myself up on someone's couch that whole time. Best experience of my life, and it launched my career, and I've now done over 100 movies. So if I had the attitude that some people have just starting out, that's I'm not going to work for free, because you see it all the time if you're on social media. People that are looking for people, and we're paying $100. Okay, they get ridiculed. The whole thing is all about, haha, you're never going to get somebody. You need to pay people the right, blah, blah, blah. That's all well and good. If you're a veteran in this business and you can command the rates, good for you. And there's plenty of people out there. Then you just ignore the posts where they're only paying you a pizza and a credit. But for people who just don't have the experience, don't have the connections, you've got to do it. So go in there with a good attitude, work your butt off, take the pizza, take the credit, take the flack from all your other friends who graduated film school who aren't working and are complaining, and make those connections count. Move on to the next project. Because I will say also, you have to know how to do what you're doing in this business, but the most important thing is who you know. Because it doesn't matter how good you are, if nobody knows who you are, you're not going to get the call. So work hard, work your butt off, don't complain, and move up. Get better, keep going, and pay your dues, and eventually you'll be there and you'll be cooking. I don't look for work anymore. Work
I
comes to me.
completely. I started as an extra, and like I said, those 3 nights in the cold on Donnybrook was the first thing I ever did. I didn't make shit. Did not make shit, but you know what?
Yeah.
It's the best damn time I ever had. And
Yeah.
I was one of the
Yeah.
only females who actually made it through all 3 nights. Well, the last night everybody did have to show up, but those 2 nights everybody disappeared, female wise,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know, because it was
Yeah.
cold. But me, I'm ballsy. So, and I've done so many things that where I didn't get paid, but and I still do things right now that I don't get paid for. I
Yeah.
do it, but I do it for experience, or I do it
Yeah.
to, and
Yeah.
I did it, in the beginning. I've known business because I was running a business when I first got into this business. So business is easy for me. But the film industry, you know, I had so much fun that I didn't care. I wanted to be
Yeah.
there and
Yeah.
to learn and make those connections. And they do notice. And this is another thing that people are not aware of, even on those small independent little films, or even on the little short films or whatever, you don't know who you're working with. Those
Yeah.
people can be
Yeah.
huge and you
Well,
don't.
they may be nothing and eventually become huge and remember you.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were people that just waited. I watched this on two sets actually, waited until lunch. And as soon as lunch happened, they left after that, like left. And
Yeah. Yeah.
I told the people and the casting when I had first started, I was like, you had a bunch of people just leave. There goes your continuity. You know what I mean? For
Yeah.
some of the scenes.
Yeah. Well,
And
not everybody's cut out for this business for
yeah,
sure. And I'll also say not every free experience is going to be a good experience. I totally get that. More than likely, it's going to be a little bit of a train wreck, right? I get it. But guess what? You'll learn from those too. You learn from bad experiences. You learn from people who screw up. The beauty is it's not your problem. The beauty is somebody else is going to reap the benefits of having screwed up, but now you get to witness that mistake and say, oh, good, I'm not going to do that when it's my money on the line or my reputation. So every experience is a learning experience. Sometimes you're fortunate and you're working with masters and you can say, wow, that's how it's done. Sometimes you're fortunate you're working with idiots and you say, I'm never going to do it like that. And now I don't have to have scars to experience it. You get the scars. So it's a win-win. Hopefully you don't have too many of those though.
yeah. I've been there with some idiots, trust me.
Yeah.
And you're just looking like, oh Lord.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to have discernment. You have to have discernment. You have to do the research. You have to know who you're getting into business with. And you're going to make a few mistakes, but ultimately, eventually, you get a little bit better at it and you get better at reading the signs and the red flags. And they're certainly out there. And if you see red flags, well, let your instincts tell you that's one you might want to avoid. They're not all like that, but they're certainly out there. So, yeah, you're going to want to avoid those for sure.
Yeah.
So,
Oh man, I tell you what.
all
All right. Well, I'm going to wrap this portion of it up.
right.
I want you to stay on. I definitely want to say thank you. And I'm so glad that you are feeling better.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
I know that,
Hey,
that sucks. I've been dealing with some sick babies here also.
yeah. Yeah, it's no fun.
No, not really. Three, 2 and 4. Trust me. No. All right. And everybody, thank you guys for watching. Make sure you listen to his advice. He knows what the hell he's talking about. Bye, guys.